Hi, everybody. It's Jessica. I just wanted to share with everyone what I think is going to be happening in the future of the United States. This is going to be a rather long message, so stick with me on this, and I really hope you guys really consider what I'm about to tell you, because I really do feel like, most of the United States is living in ignorance right now, and I really hope that, I might help start a revolution and get the word out. So if you're interested, stay on the line. If you're not, hang up and continue living in ignorance. So, I've been doing some research, some of it considered conspiracy theory, but I strongly believe that what is to come for our country is terrible. In this post, or this, message, I'd like to tell you about the hundreds of concentration camps popping up all over the U.S., UK, Russia, Germany. I'd also like to share some information about the Federal Reserve, the Great Depression, the Bailout, the Illuminati, the New World Order, mind control, and a few other things. First, let's talk about the bailout, because it is a hot topic right now, and I believe that this is the start of our demise. This bailout is rescuing the muggles in the banking industry who, since 1929, have been manipulating the United States government. Back in 29, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, and Rothschild ran the largest banks in New York. J.P. Morgan ran a scandalous article in the newspaper saying that the smaller banks were going bankrupt. This caused a mass panic, and people started pulling all their money out, which in turn really did cause these banks to go under. After these banks shut down, Morgan, Rockefeller, and Rothschild bought up all the businesses and gained a monopoly over the American people's funds. Soon after that, we experienced the Great Depression. Morgan, Rockefeller, Rothschild formed a business called the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has never been part of the United States government. It is no more federal than Federal Express. It is a privately owned company. Also, I'd like to point out that our currency had been gold until 1929. We did have dollar bills, but they were just banknotes at the time. Each dollar had its equivalent in gold, i.e., this dollar is worth 3 gold, or something in the sense. Well, during the Depression, which ultimately this one business caused due to Morgan's rumors, the Federal Reserve told everyone to send in their gold bullion for the Depression. And like the sheep we are, we did it. And soon thereafter, the Federal Reserve changed the dollar bill, making it legal tender while sitting on our real gold, our real currency. What's this have to do with the bailout, you might wonder? Well, I'll get to that, so stick with me on it, okay? So now the Federal Reserve is charging the government to print the dollar bills. Every dollar that's printed, the government has to pay interest on. But the government can never pay that back, because to get more money, they have to have it printed, and therefore they are eternally indebted to this company as long as our currency stays as the dollar bill. Talk about a vicious cycle. Also, did anyone notice who bought WAMU? Washington Mutual? Yeah, that's right. It was J.P. Morgan. Are you following me now? Okay, so while the above information is settling in your head, our current president, George W. Bush, his grandfather, Preston Bush, was also a New York banker who has since joined the Federal Reserve. But guess what his bank specialized in? Back in World War II, Preston Bush was in the money laundering business. But guess who for? The Nazis. And speaking of the Nazis, you will see a lot of mirrored situations here, by the way. Let's start with the Holocaust. So during the Holocaust, Jewish people were put onto trains and taken to concentration camps, like Auschwitz, which is probably the most famous. They had no idea what was going on until they were bum-rushed into all these concentration camps. Well, the U.S. has hundreds of these popping up all over. And how do we know for a fact that they're concentration camps? Well, let's look at some of the facts. There are random fenced-in areas popping up for no apparent reason. And I say apparent because most people are ignorant to the fact. Their fences have razor wire at the top on the inner side of the fence. If it were on the outer part, it would be to keep people out. But this is on the inside to keep people in. These areas are actively patrolled, even though they contain nothing, or so it seems. But just keep that in mind and do some research on it, please, by all means. Try to prove me wrong. You will be shocked by what you dig up. there was also a government official who used to work for FEMA and the CIA. He admitted that there are 3 lists: green, red, and blue. Green are people who will be compliant. They will be the ones who live through everything. Reds are the active protesters. They will be shot on arrival to these camps and are likely to be picked up and killed before martial law goes into effect, so that there will be nobody to speak out against the government. Then there are blue listers, people like me who blow the whistle and try to make the public more aware of what happens right under their noses. Blue listers will be tortured, maimed, and malnourished until they comply. If they don't comply, they will be killed. I myself have never been a religious person. I believe knowledge is the ultimate religion. Have you ever wondered why we're so curious about things? It's because knowledge is that archetypal God that we all seek. You may have your own beliefs, which is perfectly fine. I do, however, believe that the Bible and renditions thereof have been given to us to guide us through times to come. The book of Revelation, for instance, talks about the mark of the beast and people who will be beheaded. Someone please tell me why an army base in North Carolina has 6,000 guillotines in storage. Think about that for a minute. Now, let's talk about the angel of death. He's the Nazi who is in charge of mind control at the concentration camps in Germany. Now, at this point, we already know Bush's grandfather was involved with the Nazis, but did you know that the angel of death was detained in the United States after World War II? He was detained at China Lake Naval Air and Weapons Station in Ridgecrest, California. Sound familiar? Well, it should, because that's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm recording this from. The reason I researched this town is because when I got here, I noticed everyone here was very strange, and I'm sure I've talked to a lot of you about this. The town itself, and this is totally not a joke by any means, it is very real, and you can experience it for yourself if you visit Ridgecrest. The whole town is almost a mirror image of the fictional town of Stepford. People here are very, if not overly polite, until you start asking questions. Then they all become offstandish and cease talking to you. This town does not welcome outsiders, which I've been called 4 times since I've been here in the last 2 months, to my face. Also, there's a lot of broadcasting radio towers here, but it's too many for a small town. Now, I really want you to think about this. It is scientifically proven that our minds operate on radio wavelengths. When you hold a seashell up to your ear and hear the waves, what you're actually hearing is your head's waves being echoed back to you. Each one of our brains acts as a transmitter and a receiver. The angel of death knew this, and he was detained here. He is infamous for his knowledge of mind control. Could it be that the U.S. government put this man in a small, desolate town in California desert so that they may access his mind control techniques and experiment on the people who live in this small town that is in the middle of nowhere? I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, why would they do that? That's stupid. And, I thought the same thing until I came across an organization known as the New World Order. The New World Order is made up of Illuminati members who wish to bring the world under one government. Some well-known members of the NWO are, as you may have guessed, President George W. Bush, George Bush Sr., and Bill Clinton, along with the moguls of the banking industry, Rockefeller and Morgan, Rothschild, and Preston Bush. And there's tons more that I haven't even mentioned, and these people have a very, very reliable network within their own community. And let me put it this way, it's going to be hard for everybody involved to even be able to fight this. It really is. Anyway, the Illuminati, though, they originally were a faction that broke off from the Catholic Church because they disagreed with the removal of texts from the Bible, which, seems honorable enough. But over the years, the Illuminati, which is perpetuated by the Skulls and Bones Secret Society that hails from Yale University, which Clinton and both the Bushes also attended, has become something altogether different. Again, I encourage you to do your own research if you don't believe me. If you've ever heard of the blind leading the blind, I think you might be familiar with the Illuminati already. Also, a lot of people don't know this, but in 1977, Bush Sr.